Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views on News and I'm Faisal Rahman live from our Islamabad studios. Today we'll be talking about the report of the IMF and primarily they have actually, tried to tell us about the overall global economic scenario. We'll be talking about in our today's program the economic situation of Pakistan in the year 2020-2021. As we all know that the first quarter of this fiscal year has ended and now there is a forecast that the inflation is going to be up, whereas the employment is going to go down, and also the overall GDP growth is also going to be curtailed. Then another very important story is about the Middle East, Central Asia to face decade of economic pain. Now, primarily, these were the oil or energy exporting countries, and now the issue is that when you talk about Middle East in particular, look at the amount of remittances which we get from the Middle Eastern countries. So we'll be talking about that also. And then another very important aspect is about the long-term losses to growth, income and employment. As I earlier mentioned, this was also stated by the International Monetary Fund. So where do we exactly stand as far as this is concerned? We'll be talking about that. Then growing reliance on remittances, as I earlier mentioned also, that now we are really happy that almost $2 billion are coming in from the foreign countries into the Pakistani State Bank. And primarily what we have witnessed is that this is one of the highest ever recorded. But primarily a lot of people are losing their jobs. So they're coming back and they're closing their accounts also. So this could be one of the reasons. But having said that, the IMF also has shown concern. And then you talk about the rising inflation to hurt the economic growth. This was stated by the Federation of Pakistan, Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Karachi. And obviously inflation, as they have mentioned, that could hit 10%, whereas the growth is going to be 1%. Then the coronavirus issue, it has crippled the global businesses all over the world. Just look at the example of USA, where the actual loss so far is considered somewhere at around 16 T for trillion, 16 trillion US dollars. So you can well imagine the kind of global impact it is going to have. And I'm just talking about one country. And forget about the various businesses, whether you talk about the airline industry or the restaurants or the hotels, so on and so forth. Then the impact of global recession on Pakistan. Though Pakistan is a very small country and this global recession is a reality. But having said that, I think Pakistan has played its cards very, very wisely. And there was this very interesting report from one of the former US Treasury Secretary. And he mentioned that that the Americans could have learned from Pakistan, that how to implement a lockdown, a smart lockdown, and how to still manage your day-to-day businesses. And I think Pakistan has been hailed by a lot of international organizations regarding this coronavirus control, and at the same time keeping the economy alive as well. To talk about this now, let me introduce you to our panelists we have with us in our studio. On my right is Abdul Jaleel Saab. Abdul Jaleel Saab is a public policy analyst. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. And we have with us Ahmed Hassan Mughal Saab, former president of Islamabad Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Mughal Saab, thank you very much, sir, for your time as well. And on Skype, we'll be talking to Abdullah Yusuf Saab, the former chairman of Federation of FPR, formerly known as CBR. Now, Abdullah Yusuf Saab, thank you very much, sir, for your time as well.
Welcome.
Jaleel Saab, now, first of all, sir, economic situation of Pakistan, the first quarter of this current fiscal year has almost ended, sir. And now we are looking at October, November, December, and then March, April, January, February, March, and April, May, and June. Second quarter, and then the third quarter. Now the overall situation, sir, when it comes to Pakistan, I mean, there are three major other parameters, obviously. There are so many parameters, but talking about inflation, sir, that is going to be hurting our economy because it is going to remain in double digit. That is what the prediction is. The economic growth around 1%. Forget about the rest, sir. Now these two major indicators and obviously resulting in lesser jobs, and a lot of people have lost their jobs as well, not only in Pakistan but a lot of Pakistanis who live abroad as well. So considering this overall situation, sir, where is it heading now?
So this is a real fact because, as you know, the COVID-19 has very adversely affected the global economy as well, everywhere in the world. There is a global recession all over the world. Investment have gone down. The manufacturing sector growth has also gone down, especially in developed country as well. And Pakistan, as a result of those after effects, Pakistan has also experienced those negative impact as well. Secondly, the economy is now moving back to very essential elements of its growth, where, for example, food industry is there. That is the only industry all over the world which is working. Otherwise, the Western economy, which totally depended upon on manufacturing sector, on tourism sector related to the airline sector, they have all of them now, they are almost on standstill. They have been paralyzed. As a result of it, the Western economy is facing a deep recession. Pakistan has got a particular problem as well. But the Pakistani government, I would say that the first thing that the government of Pakistan have done, good thing, is the reduction of the bank interest rate. That was a good step in order to promote the confidence of the investors in this country as well. Initially, what we have seen that with the introduction of the high interest rate, the manufacturing sector, the industrial sector, it really suffered a lot as a result of duplication and triplication of its financial liability, which is of course. Now the government has tried to, they have brought it, at least they have brought it to a reasonable level according to demand of the investor, number one. Number two, our manufacturing sector, I would say, still is far behind its expected level of the growth as well. And there is a reason for it. Number one is the high cost of production of energy, as you know very well. Unfortunately, energy sector has constituted a huge tax liability upon the, huge liability. Those the liability upon government of Pakistan. And in this respect, I would like to say the energy sector, specifically HAPCO and other major energy sector, they enjoy complete tax exemption. They only pay sale tax. This is something which is, I would like to say, a very big price which the nation is paying on account of this tax exemption sector.
Why are they being not taxed?
And they are enjoying this tax exemption since 91, 92.
It's been almost 30 years.
Yes.
Why is that so?
They have been given tax exemption on this consideration that the Pakistan is suffering from a energy crisis, and on account of it, they will give efficient service on priority base to this country, and they will bring the most efficient energy infrastructure in the country. I mean, such kind of, but there are wheels within the wheel with the system which you can well understand that.
I mean, that is the most unfortunate part.
And then Abraj Group, for example, it enjoys complete tax exemption as well, and it's a holding company which is running petroleum sector, which is also running energy sector, electrical energy sector and chemical sector as well, but they enjoy complete tax exemption.
These are the most
Similarly,
important
Bosika,
sectors
there
as
is
far as
another
money
holding
making
company.
is concerned. I think these are the most lucrative ones.
Yeah, it's a heavy. Sector.
Very interesting story, sir, that you have in fact raised. Economic situation of Pakistan, sir. Obviously, the whole world is feeling the heat of Corona now. Things have settled down to a certain level, but it hasn't started yet, because the moment I see these thousands and thousands of airplanes, brand new ones, parked on various airports and not flying, I mean, that tells you the story that so many other businesses are associated with them, and they've all gone down. Food, restaurant, hoteling, tourism, flying, shopping for that matter. These are the very important. People are not traveling as such. Next 8-9 months till the end of this fiscal year, by the 30th of June, do you see things really improving and taking a certain direction, or you believe that confusion is still going to be there? It will still prevail even after 9 months?
In case of the global scenario, I think that the confusion is still going to prevail, because you've seen especially in Europe, that the cases are increasing each and every day. So a couple of days ago, I was watching the news and they were showing that there's 150,000 cases in Europe in one day.
Yeah.
New cases. In case of Pakistan, I think that, like you've already said, that, things are settling down. And what we are expecting is that, people are, I think, now immune to the corona right now. They do not actually care about it. So it will take maybe 3 to 4 months more for things to come back to normal as well. So what I forecast is that
So
things are
this
going,
winter is going to be very crucial.
this
Let's
is
put
what
it
they're
this
saying,
way.
but yes, Pakistanis do not listen to anyone. So people are going to come back to normal. But at the moment, the last 6 months, it has been very difficult for people, and they're still in survival mode. So like our speaker has already stated that people are going towards essentials right now. But things are getting back to normal. You see people mingling, and you see the people in the malls and everywhere in the markets. The demand is for probably other items are also increasing apart from essentials. So hopefully within the next 3 to 4 months, things will start to get towards normal. So this is what I forecast, that in the future, especially in Pakistan, I'm not talking about the global
Provided
economy.
everything remains constant.
Of course. But if you see that there's a lockdown in London, they've done it over there as well. But over here, people who are coming from London, they are very
Even in the United
surprised.
States of America, 10 of these states, they have seen the highest number of cases, I mean, during the last 6 to 8 months.
Yes,
Just imagine.
and it's been a blessing of God, that we have survived this,
Look at
epidemic.
what is happening in Iran or India for that matter.
It's true, definitely,
neighboring
definitely, and
countries.
it will be. But over here, still, but we are linked to the global economy. So if you see, people are not able to travel to China, so a lot of our items are imported from there as well. That is one of the reasons. The Afghan, the border, they've put custom duties on the items that are coming. So those are the things that have caused inflation on the basic items as well. So, but I think with globally it might take a longer time, but I think for Pakistan it will take lesser time to be back on normal terms again.
All right. Let me take the same point to Abdullah Yusuf Saab. Now, Abdullah Yusuf Saab, I'm sure you were hearing what the gentlemen were talking about in the studio. Now, sir, when we talk about the long-term losses to growth, obviously it's a global recession. Pakistan will be affected and is being affected as well. You talk about income and employment, sir. Income has been reduced, employment has gone down. You talk about the remittances. For the time being, great number is being reported. But sir, that is not going to continue, because the IMF report says that a lot of Middle Eastern countries like Dubai, Saudi Arabia, UAE, or for that matter, you talk about oil producing nations. I mean, because of the oil turmoil, their exports have really shrunk. A lot of people are becoming jobless there as well. So the remittances in the future might shrink coming from the Middle East to Pakistan, one. And secondly, sir, now considering that, do you think we have a proper plan B or a contingency plan to counter this problem?
Thank you. See, the point that has already been raised, unfortunately, we have a very serious global issue of this COVID-19. And of course, Pakistan is one of the countries which is also affected. But now, you see, going forward, I do not see a real clarity that, we are now overcoming this and that, we should finish and we should be able to manage, etc., etc. It's a very, difficult kind of a scenario, I would say, to face, unfortunately, a lot of things which are going to make things very difficult for us, because we as an economy, we already have some major issues. One is that you have that fiscal deficit, and the other is you have this trade deficit. Now, more than 3 trillion rupees a year is your interest charges, your loans which you are having to service. And then on the trade side, you have what you are seeing, we unfortunately are not having that type of an increase which is necessary in your exports. On the import side, what we are having as a benefit, I would say at the moment, is the remittances of the foreign, overseas Pakistanis. And as you've said, we are not sure how long they are going to be there because unemployment is taking place and you are going to be losing your jobs. So naturally, if that is to happen, you will not be having the money to remit. So this problem, trade deficit and the fiscal deficit, I feel, are two very, very serious issues for the country, for the economy, and the efforts required on one side, this fiscal deficit thing, I feel what has to be done is that you have to go for substantial resource mobilization.
Is that possible in today's scenario, sir?
Because, sorry?
Is it possible in today's scenario, the substantial, engagement at that level, sir, when currently the situation is not that feasible, I guess. It's not that conducive either.
I feel that overall, as I said, that issue is there. But you do have your internal issues also. Like, for instance, you have a tax gap of about 80%. What it means is that if you are collecting 100 rupees, you are not collecting 80 rupees. Now, more than 4 trillion is the target, and that means that more than 3.2 trillion is the amount that you have the potential to collect, but you are not able to collect. The main reason for that problem is your cash economy, non-documented economy. Now, how are we going to manage that?
All right. Now, sir, talking about the cash economy, the grey area, the leakages, poor management, bad governance, primarily, sir, one thing is very alarming that we've been talking about this for such a long time. This cash economy, sir.
Faisal Saab, the question is that Pakistan...
Is it possible that we can have a mechanism in which, let's suppose, any transaction, let's say above 100,000 rupees, should not be in cash? It has to be through a card or through some other source.
Faisal Saab,
You can keep an eye,
as far as economy documentation is concerned, FBR have taken several steps which have proved very effective. For example, networking with Nadra, right? Networking with the banking sector, networking with the development authorities, where a lot of transactions take place every day with respect to the land, purchase and the sales as well. So all these transactions which are taking place in the banks are in your corporate financial centers. They are being in fact reported back to a Federal Board of Revenue on a daily basis on the point of the occurrences. The problem is that the FBR, now the big question is whether FBR have got a capacity, technical capacity and a professional capacity to deal with that information and to use it for the taxation purpose or not. That's a big question. That is something which where the government has to now examine it and takes appropriate step to expand the capacities of FBR by making them more effective, so that those cases, those transactions which are quite heavy in nature should be verified and should be taxed on within a given time. Now, it is not. Firstly, if you will see the manpower which is available, trained manpower of FBR, it's very limited. If you get, for example, about, let's say, you get information with respect to 1 lakh people per day, do you think that the FBR personal.
This is what
rather than-
automation is all about,
The-
sir.
the-
That's what Abdullah Yusuf Saab always used to say.
So
Automation is the key.
The government has to rethink about the technical professional capacities of FBR and make it appropriate, investment.
Sir, just a second, sir.
One of the
Yeah, Abdullah Saab.
that I have already made to the FBR is that we need to use actually the facility of NADRA, because that is an institution which is having a lot of data bank, and that is what you can then try to utilize and benefit. And fortunately now they have also entered into an MOU between FPR and NADRA to see how they can utilize FPR to utilize that information, because automation is the solution. Otherwise, with all this problem that we have been facing, it's not going to be possible. And in the world, a number of countries have already gone through this type of a problem, and they have resolved it or managed it through this system of automation. And that is the real issue which needs to have that focus, which hopefully now the government is actually also accepting and trying to manage. And that will definitely get us that additional benefits which are absolutely necessary from our national point of view, because we cannot carry on like this and accumulate.
Abdullah Saab, your voice is breaking up, so we'll try to contact you once again because we can't hear you very clearly. I hope the production team is going to sort that issue out. Now, sir, quick comment on a couple of other areas as well, sir.
Sir,
Please.
Number one, you see the cash economy system, mostly it has the FBR recent, the steps which they have taken, they have proved quite effective, and number of the taxpayers have gone up as well. But consequently, with the same proportionate, speed or velocity, we should try to make investment on expanding and improving the facilities and technical capacity of FBR. Number one, and number two. Number two, what we have to see, there is a big question whether Pakistani society right now is ripe for investment, for more investment in industrial, electronic and the computer sector or not. This is an area in which we are lagging behind with our competitor because of certain reasons. Number one, our tax policy is not in fact predictable, and it is not stable as well. Whenever the country faces, under any political convention or economic convulsion, our entire commitment with our tax policies or financial policy, they are drastically changed, right? As a result of it, the investors, they suffer with respect to the commitment which states have made with them. So the government have to bring about a long-term stable the tax policy, which is very important. Investment policy is also has to be facilitated by taking one window operation. For example, when the government decided initially that with the development of the economic zone, all facility will be provided to investors there and then through a single window system, right? Like connection with electricity, gas, and even the acquisition of the land. Unfortunately,
sir, we have been talking about it for years and years. What exactly has been done on ground?
This could not be materialized, and this is what I say, that the provinces and the federal governments both have to get themselves. They will have to involve themselves and develop a shared mechanism so that this problem could be solved. Because the land belongs to the provinces. When you create an economic free zone, you will need a land, and land belongs to provinces. So the revenue department of the provinces have to be involved in it. Unfortunately, I would say that
certain issues are so complicated, sir. Honestly, it seems as if we have ourselves created problems for.
So yes, and there is way out. Either the government of the federal government should requisition a land on its own under the law, under requisition.
I was doing a show on and minerals in Pakistan, and interestingly, sir, I mean, there is an SAPM on minerals sitting in the federal government, part of the cabinet, whereas most of the control of those minerals are with the provinces. So policy is made here in Islamabad, implemented somewhere else. God knows what exactly is going on. So
Actually-
these are the, I mean,
Actually, 18th Amendment has actually destabilized this relationship.
sir, there are
between
good things and there are bad things. 18th Amendment is a very, very interesting, I
Actually,
think,
it should have been
topic.
Devolution should have been done in stages, not in a one go.
Yeah, now, Mughal Saab, since you meet so many businessmen, industrialists, so and so, in your offices and in the chamber as well. Now, sir, primarily, I do believe that our business community, they're good people. They will give taxes provided they get certain services in return. That is the only thing. On one side, the government expects you to give 100% tax and be the best citizen in Pakistan and the highest taxpayer. But, sir, against what? That is the question. And then I need to know that there shouldn't be any corruption, that we are paying taxes and eventually the money is being laundered abroad. Why? I mean, this is the trust deficit element, sir. That is the problem again. Now, so top 3 issues that you face almost on daily basis, which you believe the government should have done much earlier. And for God knows what reasons are they delaying it.
One of the reasons was that for the past couple, maybe they've changed it right now, but as I mentioned in so many programs as well, in your program as well, the interest rate that had gone up from 6.25 to 13.25, that was one of the biggest reasons. The access to capital, that was one of the reasons. Then you expect to that
Access to capital was primarily because of this reason.
Yes, because of this. With 13.25 is just not sustainable for any kind of business, even if it's a very profitable one. 13.25 plus
Looking at the growth rate and looking at the interest rate, I mean, yeah.
And then you've got those. You've mentioned FBR. There's a trust deficit. There has been mentioned so many times. Nobody, people, the taxpayer does not trust the FBR. The FBR does not trust the taxpayer. If you're paying ₹1 million tax, they will say, that is still not enough. If you're paying $1 million, you must have been owed more. You owe more than that. So the process of tax, the form of the tax filing, that should be very, very simple for people. It should, a common man, you expect everyone to be in the tax net, but how can you, a small retailer, how is he able to afford a tax consultant or a lawyer to fill out his taxes? So the reason for that is, and the harassment that people have faced, they've been given so many notices. And there have been cases, where your tax consultant has been working in coordination with someone in FBR, and they've been sending him tax, notices, just in case, so that the reason for that as well. So the FBR has been. Then we've talking about the economic zones. There was supposed to be 8 economic zones in Pakistan with CPEC, but you've seen the progress. What are you going to invest in? There is nothing over there.
What
There's
is the
no
prevailing
facilities.
mood of the investor,
Uh,
the domestic investor? I'm
Domestic
talking about.
investor, it's still, they're saying, whatever you have, just keep that instead of the capital you have with you, because it's been really difficult time for each and everyone. So everybody's in a survival mode. So people are not willing to invest right now, unless and until there's an opportunity. You've seen that with the COVID-19, a lot of new services have been started. Each and everything you can get it delivered. The people
Online
investing-
services, yeah.
Everything has been like that. So there's been, with the
Even fruit and vegetable.
in fruit and vegetable, as
Yeah.
well, each and everything
We
is
never thought of
available
that.
online. So people have looked into opportunities, but that's like on a small scale.
Yeah.
If you don't have, there's no automation in our industry. As well, that maybe you don't need a lot of labor in, maybe need maybe a couple of hundred people, and they run the big setup. But we don't have that kind of machinery over here that they could have been able to work part time, or work on
One
a few
very
hours.
important area which I would like you to talk about is about the people who are coming back from the Middle Eastern countries. Different lifestyle, different life standard, and a different environment to work. And certainly no jobs coming back to Pakistan.
Right.
They will be dependent on certain level of savings. And you were talking about millions of them. Now that is something very important, and those millions were earning for multiple millions. So if you allow me, sir, I'll just have to take a short break. After the break, we'll return and we'll continue our discussion. Stay with us. Welcome back after the break. Now, Mughal Saab, a couple of quick questions because I don't think we have much time left. You believe that if there is a proper, transparent tax policy, the government or the concerned institutions and the departments can gather more money in the form of taxes, rather than trying to squeeze the already existing taxpayers, or maybe try to bring in 10 and then you'll be having pending cases in the CBI like the way currently it's going on. I mean, I just want your take on that from your perspective, from the perspective of a domestic investor or a trader for that matter. How do you see that?
Definitely, there should be a transparent way of taxation. The policy should be, I think it should be consistent, with every couple of years, or, there's a new SRO and, there's a new tax policy, something new is added on, so nobody even understands, and then it's withdrawn, when they get a backlash from that. So it has to be simpler way, it has to be a transparent way. The problem is that the trust deficit between the taxpayer and the tax collector. Too much power is given to the tax collector. They can give you issue so many notices. They can bury you under actually notices, and then there is no way to get out of that. And what people do, how to get rid of all these problems. So it has to be simpler, and the tax rate has to be a nominal percentage. So what we expect do is like we keep on increasing taxes. So what do you expect that people are going to pay? How are they going to survive if they're going to pay majority of what they're earning to the FBR? And what are you getting in return for that? I would not be willing to pay taxes when we see that the ministers are having so many protocols, and they're having so many perks, and
that's why we say it's taxpayers' money.
That is taxpayers' money. There's everywhere in each and every country apart from Pakistan and a few other countries, you are liable for this money that you spent, that the government earns from the taxpayers. So you have to tell them, you have to justify where that money is being spent. I don't think anyone, especially salaried person, who's getting taxed at source, so he will not be happy, that the perks that all the people in the government are enjoying, I mean, it's from your hard-earned money. So it has to be a benefit. There should be a benefit given to. It has to be some benefit given to. You have to pay for your security. You have to pay for schools. You have to pay for each and everything. So what the government is supposed to provide you.
The promises or the commitment of the government doesn't even exist, because you are paying for your. Even you're paying for those services which do not even exist. Like, for example, the water.
Yes.
You don't get it. You have your own boring or your own well in your home. You talk about security. You have your own people looking after your affairs. You talk about gas. You talk about electricity. You talk about anything and everything. I mean, why then? This is the question. That right. You give me a good service, and I swear I'll pay you 100% taxes. I mean, that should be the way forward. Now, Abdullah Yusuf Sahab, Jalil Sahab, I'll just come back to you after this. Abdullah Yusuf Sahab, now, a very decent suggestion is given by Mughal Sahab here. He says that, if there is some sort of consistency as far as tax collection is concerned, people would pay taxes. Now, the problem is that we are not clear about it. There is uncertainty prevailing. The moment you disclose your accounts or anything, the people from the FBR, they will be after you. And then, they scare you to an extent that you don't even end up showing what you could have actually, shown and given them the right amount of money in the form of taxes.
Actually, if I can tell you the world position, really and unfortunately, nobody really wants to pay the tax. But in most of these developed countries, they have no choice because of the system and effectiveness of the system through automation. And that is what we are having as our problem. We have to go for a very major increase in our taxpayer base, because the numbers that we have today and numbers that we have the potential, there's a big gap. And that you will only be able to manage through this effort of systematization and automation. Now, if you manage that, if you are able to do that, that it is across the board for everybody, whoever is having a certain source of income, irrespective of its source, and you are charging whatever the rate of tax, then it is for everybody. And it is not that you are charging one lot of people heavily and the other lot is totally without any tax at all to be paid. So this is our problem, and we must now focus on this to try and make sure that our cash economy is resolved through this automation process, and that will definitely increase our taxpayer base and our revenue, which we have to manage, from our national point of view, because we cannot carry on with this fiscal deficit and keep increasing our debt.
This is exactly what is happening, unfortunately, in Pakistan, sir. But the point is that we have been talking about this automation, and even if you were there as the head of the FBR, I still remember we have had collected some decent sum of money through taxes and all. But now, sir, I mean, every year at least I end up doing about 20-30 shows on economy, sir. And we always suggest, and people like you always come up with great solutions. But sir, nothing is being done practically. I mean, what's the problem? Is it the will that is missing? Or maybe it consumes a lot of time and a lot of effort also? What exactly seems to be the real cause, sir?
The first issue always is that you have to have the niyat right at the top. And then, of course, it has to flow down. And unfortunately, we have this problem of vested interest and all these type of issues which are there. Rather than focusing on the national interest, we are just moving from left and right in our vested interest problems. So we must now look at this, understand this, and really focus on this, because this effort is totally inevitable and absolutely necessary, and it will also have the result. It will produce the positive result. We have to really work on this. Now, if I look back when I happened to be there, the 4 or 5 years that I was there, that is the time when, if you look at the whole history, since 1947 till today, what you've been doing, you fix your target, you revise it downwards during the year, and then you even don't achieve that. But fortunately, that 5-year period is the period when whatever you fixed as a target, you exceeded that. And 1 year you also revised it upwards, and even that you exceeded. What was the reason? The reason was primarily the effort, the commitment to try and move things forward in the national interest, not in the personal interest. But then what happens instead of
thank you very
moving
much, sir,
forward,
because we are totally running out of time. Thank you so much for your comments, and thank you very much, Mughal Saab, and it was a pleasure having you, Jaleel Saab. And I think it's very important. I still remember in those days when Abdullah Yusuf Saab was the head of the CBR, now which we know as FBR. There was this 8.4% economic growth, 8.4%, and that was like huge. And maybe that was another reason that, people were really feeling comfortable. Jalal Musharraf was totally in power. We were the allies as far as the war on terror is concerned. Money was flowing in. Things were great. But unfortunately, we could not.
Actually, the very momentum of reforms
but that is broken down. Yeah. Anyway, sir, thank you very much. That's all we have for this hour. I'll see you inshallah tomorrow. Till then, you take good care. Khuda Hafiz.